Thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with numerous policies that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis. And some of the cases we're talking about would be ending birthright citizenship, which now comes to the fore. That was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation. This was, in fact, it was the same date, the exact same date, the end of the Civil War. It was meant for the babies of slaves, and it's so clean and so obvious. But this lets us go there and finally win that case, because hundreds of thousands of people are pouring into our country under birthright citizenship, and it wasn't meant for that reason. It was meant for the babies of slaves. So thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with these numerous policies and those that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis, including birthright citizenship, ending sanctuary city funding, suspending refugee resettlement, freezing unnecessary funding, stopping federal taxpayers from paying for transgender surgeries, and numerous other priorities of the American people.
Good evening, gentlemen, and a few of you ladies that may be listening. This is Spiritual Art of War, back at it again with another episode. This time we're going to talk about what Trump talked about today at the White House in regards to the Supreme Court's decision of interpretation of the 14th Amendment, which the 14th Amendment was dealing with citizenship, birthright citizenship of the people that were freed, at least freed on paper, right, from slavery after the Civil War ended. Okay, so that was to establish the citizenship of those born in the U.S., particularly those that were descendants of slavery in the United States. Okay, they became known as the freedmen. Okay, and then they had a census in 1870, and they also had what's called the Freedmen's Bank, okay, under the Freedmen's Bureau, which unfortunately that was, dismantled and, destroyed by the government. There was a lot of infiltration in the Freedmen's Bank, and the bank was no longer around. And, that's something that would probably need to be explored by somebody like a Tariq Nasheed, who believes that he's still going to be able to get reparations. Now, there's a lot of celebration by those that are against immigration, and there's a lot of people that are upset that are from immigrant backgrounds that are worried about this stuff, or they're just liberals that just want people to come here willy-nilly, not understanding how countries work, how they have to protect their sovereignty, how you got to factor in how people are going to live, how they're going to work, how they're going to take care of themselves. There's housing. There's education of the children that people would have. All these things have to be factored in, okay? And you can't there is no unlimited of everything. There's no unlimited space of everything. There's no unlimited building. There's no unlimited jobs. So that's the reason why when you look at countries, whenever they have immigration, they have to control it based off of need and based off of how fast their economy is growing, on whether or not these people are going to be allowed to expand what they're doing on an economic level and socially as well. Okay, and a lot of countries do explore immigration to solve certain issues with maybe there's a lack of skill in the country that needs a level of expertise. This is where the different visas come into play, where you can come in on visas based on your expertise. Okay, so when it comes to this, people think, it's very weird because, see, there's people that speak on things from an angle of just passion, and then there's those that speak on things based on an angle of knowledge and know-how. Okay? And you have people that are celebrating, and we're talking about there's two main strong factions that are looking at this from an angle of revoking of citizenship. Those that are the white supremacists, okay, your far right, they're celebrating this, thinking that there's some of those in those pockets that think revocation of citizenship would happen to people, like all outright, like meaning somebody that's a naturalized U.S. citizen would all of a sudden have their citizenship revoked. Then that's a lie. And then the other faction that mirrors them is the FBA faction. Those that are under Tariq Nasheed and ADOS under Yvette Carnell. Okay? And I forgot the other guy's name. His name escapes me right now, but her partner in crime. Who actually, ADOS, American Descendants of Slave, under Yvette Carnell, and Tone Talks. Forgot his full name, but Tone Talks is his handle. They actually were proven to be paid and sponsored by far-right white nationalists. This is actually proven. I forgot the name of the group, but there was a guy by the name of, I remember when it was first mentioned and proven, and then I saw it, I forgot about it, and it was mentioned by a YouTuber by the name of Cam Jones, who I do not, I don't rock with him. That was the first time me seeing him. He was talking about Tariq and going into the history, and there were so many things that I disagree with. I even said it in the comments. If you go to his channel, you can see some of the comments that I made. But he brought out something that I forgot, which was the connection to ADOS, FBA, and a white nationalist think tank group that pays Yvette Carnell's group and Tone Talks to be anti-immigration, which again, this group is anti-non-white immigration. This particular group that was paying them. So these people are weirdos from that angle, right? Because, and I had to think about this because when you look at it on how that's being responded to, it reminds me of black South Africans and white South Africans who both are against any black immigrants coming to the country, but they don't have no problem with Asian, East Asian, and South Asian immigrants coming to South Africa, nor do they have a problem with white ones. Okay? And in fact, it's very funny because they mirror each other very similarly. Like, it's actually kind of eerie. And it kind of makes sense because when you're a group of people who are have been under white supremacy for so long that you begin to identify with it, you begin to look at yourself as upholding certain ideals of it, which includes, white sovereignty or the ethno-state mentality where you're trying to keep things a certain way, even if it means that it's going to be detrimental to yourself. And this is what slaves did on plantations. They would care about what the master wanted over what was best for themselves. And that's a slave mentality. And that goes back to being concerned, like Malcolm X said, the famous non-FBA, who y'all would call a tether today, but you want to call him an ally or FBA because of how you want to redesignate it. But I'm going to go ahead and say that he's a Caribbean. A Caribbean. You saw the movie Malcolm X, where he let you know that I think his mom was from the Caribbean. I think she was from St. Kitts or one of them places. And remember, y'all said that if you got your boy Tariq said if one of your parents is non-FBA, meaning he's okay with one of your parents being white and the other one being black American. But if one of your parents is a Latino or black immigrant background, Jamaican, Caribbean, Afro, Latino, Dominican, Colombian, Ghanaian, whatever, Nigerian, then you got a dual allegiance and you can't be trusted. But he could trust Nipsey though. But back to the lecture at hand. When you got that type of situation going on in your mind, then you don't really understand the long play, of how they view that thing. Now, they are correct, and what happens is that anybody who comes to the country, you got to make sure you have your proper paperwork. This is America, man. This is the West. This is not countries where you could kind of like slip away with it. Even though there's 340 plus million people in this country and counting and going up, it doesn't mean that they can't, ultimately find you, because at some point you're going to have to deposit money to a bank account. At some point, You're going to have to drive a car if you need to go one place or another, right? So that's a very hard thing for someone that's illegal to live under, okay? But the idea and thinking that a majority of black immigrants are somehow illegal, you got to be kidding yourself. This country actually makes it harder. Out of all the people that are immigrants that immigrate to this country, anybody from a black country, Caribbean or Africa, is going to have a bunch of paperwork, a lot of things that he has to do before they can get here. So the percentage of them that are going to be illegal is going to be very small. I know it hurts Tariq. I mean, he might need to start getting at Godfrey, because he don't want to snap at Godfrey, but because he knows how that would end up. You know what I'm saying? And that's supposed to be his man's. But he got to understand is that a lot of people have been here for a long time. And actually, if you dig deep, you'll see that some groups have been here for about 100 years, man. Jamaicans, a lot of people from the islands, man, they've been here for, their early immigration goes back over 100 years. I mean, Marcus Garvey was over here. He was born in Jamaica, came to the U.S., had businesses, became rich and wealthy, and became so influential that they got him up out of here. He was doing more to advance so-called black people in New York than people that was born here, because he had an outside perspective and he understood white supremacy. Okay? So, when it comes to people thinking that just going to be people going to get rounded up and shipped out, bro, trust me, as someone who grew up in Houston, Southwest Side to be exact, which is where you'll have the largest population of people that immigrated from other countries living there, in Houston, I know exactly how a lot of different groups got here, okay? Including my own folks who've been here for, my people came here a long time ago. We're actually third generation in now. Okay? Godfrey's dad came here in the late 60s. That's my dad's older brother's friend is Godfrey. They went to high school together. They went to the same, what they would call secondary school. And he left back in the mid 60s and got over here. Godfrey was born in Nebraska. Then they moved to Chicago when he was really young. Okay? In fact, I think his dad even taught at like a school that was named after Malcolm X or something like that. Like super duper pro-black, all that stuff, bro. That's how they grew up back then. Because, you got to think about someone coming up during that time as an adult, as a teen and adults, being anti-colonialist, being pro-black, so to speak, on a global scale. This is what a lot of people don't even understand about that time, about people from that era, especially coming from where my parents is from, me and Godfrey's parents is from. We ain't talking about Nigeria, we're talking about from Southeast Nigeria. That's, which is considered the most, those are the people that everybody on the continent worry about uprising. That's a whole nother story. But these these so-called social media victories, thinking that that's going to lead to all this mass deportation of everybody that's non-FBA, you guys is weird, man. You guys is very weird. Because the thing about it, you're completely not factoring in how long people have been here. Multiple generations, dude. I mean, that's like you waking up and thinking that, like somebody like Biggie Smalls is, the Christopher Wallace, that his son gonna get deported, as if like he's not now a second, third generation Caribbean. And if these people, like I said before, a lot of these people, they think like white supremacists, because when you get to a point where you've been paternalized, where the white man has turned you into a child, and they're the parent, it's called paternalism. You can look it up. When you get into that mode where you have to get everything from your oppressor, you begin to uphold the things that he upholds. And that's the monster that many of these people have turned into. Okay, both black South Africans became like that, and also people that run with people like Tariq and Yvette Carnell. Okay, and they're literally being manipulated by white nationalists who are paying people. Now there's right now there is no proof of payment going to Tariq, so I'm not gonna, what do you call it, put any accusation on him on that. But Yvette and ADOS with Tone Talks, they are getting paper to promote that. Okay, and there's a lot of things that I can kind of get on the next level on when it comes to that, but I'm not going to get into that right now. There'll be a time and place for that. But in regards to the citizenship thing, you have to understand what is the ultimate end game with that if he's able to get to the next level. Okay? Because you could be asking for something that you think is a certain way, and then you start getting carded too. You know, if you think it's only like a guy, your name is Tariq Nasheed. Your name like Tariq Nasheed is not considered a Black American name. It's just not. Okay, they might consider you probably somebody from Guinea, man. I'm telling you, they might think you from Burkina Faso, and you might be somebody that might be linked to Abraham Traore, who's an enemy of NATO. So you could get pulled up, hemmed over, and sent up into a center with them telling you need to prove your citizenship. Okay? So it's not all cut and dry. People ain't walking around with flags in their head, man. Yo, I swear, Tariq act like people are walking around with flags in their head. This dude he doesn't even know who is an FBA or non-FBA. He be calling people immigrants that are actually born, raised here, their family been here going back to the plantations, bro. He calling guys like Anton Daniels immigrants. So if you're calling Anton Daniels an immigrant, that means if you was an ICE agent, you'd want him to be hemmed up and thrown into a deportation ICE detention center to wait and prove his citizenship. But you ain't gonna think that's gonna come back on you? Boy, you crazy, man. But see, like I said, and I said it before, these people are not going to be able to pivot back to another space. Their reinvention of what they're doing, some of these people, is done. That's why if you see certain people, they can't reinvent themselves. Like Anthony Brian Logan, he got to stay on the right. Donovan Sharp, he got to stay on the right. He can never pivot out of being a right-wing, far right and speaking these, white supremacist talking points. He can never leave from that. And these are FBA, by the way. You ain't gonna see Tariq talking about them. You ain't gonna talk about the Hodge twins and Officer Tatum. He knows these people exist. He ain't talking about Jesse Lee Peterson. These are FBA people. He don't want to talk about them. And they're talking dastardly down upon their own people. And ha-ha and kikiing with full-blown white supremacists. And getting paid to do it too. But it's not a threat. You funny. So like I said, man, this is not a surprising interpretation of the 14th Amendment, because you got to go back to the intent of it. And then you got to factor in that they don't want to have people coming over the border or getting on flights to have babies. That's what a lot of people were doing. A lot of people were getting visas. They were from other countries. A lot of people were either connected or had money, and they were able to get themselves in a position where they could get a visa while they were pregnant. And then that way they can come to the U.S. and have a baby. That's what happened with DeVito. DeVito is what you would call like an anchor citizen. He's an anchored baby, naturalized citizen. His dad is one of the looters of Nigeria. Okay, that's the truth about him. A lot of these Nigerians ain't gonna tell you that, because they want you to just think good about DeVito, because he's part of the image that they want to uphold, the positive image. But many of them ain't gonna tell you that his family is a whole crook. They're crook family that were given oil wells because they're part of the oligarchy of Nigeria. And the oil wells is not even from their tribal lands. They're getting it from other people's tribal lands. Okay? Where those people are impoverished and starving while they're eating. They're up hundreds of millions of dollars up with private jets for decades now. Going on like 20 years now. So yeah, guys like DeVito was born in Atlanta, and then he went back to Nigeria. Then when he finished high school in Nigeria, he came to college in the U.S. Okay, so that type of stuff is what they're trying to stop. So a lot of people that's from these other countries, whether they're now there, you think they're going to stop that with Europeans? If you're a freaking rich, if you're from Monaco, France, or one of these places, and you want to have your baby, they're going to let you have your baby, and they're going to let your baby be a U.S. citizen, bro. That's what they trying to do, man. Elon Musk already done told you, man. He want the white population to go up, man. And these guys, you guys play right into their game, bro. You say you clap your hands as if it's gonna benefit you, man. And you can't even see what they really want to do. It's crazy, man. But some of these guys that were viewed as intelligent and viewed as like woke and viewed as fighters of the people, these same people are fighting this war on the behalf of the same ones they claim to be fighting against. Okay? And this is where it goes, because they're doing it for the moolah. They're doing it for the money. And they realize how lucrative it is. And these same men, a guy like Tariq, he really believes that he'll has an angle to pivot out of this. He won't have an angle to pivot out. Guarantee it. There's no reinvention. From Mac lessons to talking about Mackin and Pippin to talking about the melanin and Pan-Africanism and pseudoism to talking about them pivoting over to the Claude Anderson thing with the group economics, okay, to pivoting to, black warfare, and then pivoting over to the Haitian Revolution and showing love to them, and then pivoting to this whole situation right now that he's on, which is not even really going to be lucrative for the people, because if you notice, he never talks about what's really going on. He ain't talking about he ain't talking about women living in their cars, black women living in their cars, living in storage facilities, selling box. They kids are shooting up the block left and right all throughout the whole country. He gonna just blame it on black immigrants. That's what he gonna do. He gonna tell you that black immigrants were shooting up Jackson, Mississippi, shooting up Mobile, Alabama. According to him, these people that's doing this stuff is immigrants. I even heard one of his calls. He called and he said it was Nigerians that's the one dope dealing and selling all these drugs around the country. That's what this dude was saying. He said they're the ones pushing the fentanyl, but pushing all this narcotic. I was like, these guys. Okay, bruh. So when you get to that point where you have to start lying to make yourself look good, and then to not talk about the real deal issues and talk about really going on, you're done. You're done. Only a matter of time before the people come knocking on your door, because they already did. The FBI people already came knocking on his door a couple of times. Ain't no telling if this dude is a double agent himself. Because see, these people, they will sell out their own people if it means their own freedom. Okay, a lot of people do that. They don't want to sit up in that offices, man, and they'll be like, look, they'll do whatever. People will start taking deals if they haven't done so already. Okay, and there's a lot of weird, strange things that will be happening as you go closer and closer towards this downfall of this society, bro. It's gonna get real strange. But yeah, let me know what you think about this with this 14th Amendment. I don't have no problem on a law level. I have no problem with the interpretation of how it's viewed. So I'm not sitting here complaining. I'm not sitting here bugging out like some of these people on social media. All my people is straight. Okay, we came in with the proper paperwork, bruh. Not only that, like there's levels. There's levels to this thing, bruh. Like a lot of these people, they be thinking people ain't connected. Like people's connected. Like I've decided to not even pull different levers in my life that I could have really pulled, because I know what I want for my people. I don't want to go down a path of misleading our people, even if it means I could come up off of millions of dollars. And I had many opportunities. That's why I talk about the spiritual art of war. It's a spiritual thing. It's not about what you possess in this life. It's about your eternal soul is what you're trying to preserve. And you want to have a mark that is good on your life, on your soul, that you can be rewarded for your good works, man. And you can get that eternal life. If you believe in that, some of you don't. If you don't have an end game with your soul then you're really going to be subject to the temptations of wanting to obtain what is out here that's ready to perish. So let me know what you think in the comment section. Like, comment, subscribe. See you again on the next episode.